All right, these are usually one of my favorite because I'm totally biased being a Canadian. For those who know how to say like about properly and it's really key. So, Laura, welcome to the Leaders Who Care series, eh?
Yeah, thank you, Mark. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, and then you're not just on it because you're Canadian. We're going to show that you really do care, but the Canadian didn't hurt. So, love my Great White North and my hockey and all that stuff. So, um, can you please, as we usually start, share a little bit about not what you do, but share a little bit about where you're from originally, where you are now, what you feel comfortable sharing about family. Maybe there's something you've been dying to tell the world that you've never told before. Maybe you want to share about that as well. Tell us a little bit about you.
I guess an interesting fact about me is I was born in Uranium City, Saskatchewan,
Oh
which no
man.
longer, yeah, it no longer exists.
I was going to say, how many
Uh,
people can raise their hand? I know where that is.
yeah, way up by Lake Athabasca, it was a uranium mine, got shut down several years ago. So I was born in a place that really doesn't exist anymore, other than some Aboriginals.
The
But
bigger question is, which is kind of sad, how many people even know where Saskatchewan is? Damn.
well, it's a great place to come from. Let's put it that way. So
No,
I'm
there's
very
great
proud.
people there.
Yeah, I'm very proud to come from Saskatchewan. I live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada now. Very proud to live here, and yeah, just all around proud to be a Canadian. I'm married. I've got two daughters and one granddaughter, and yeah, the my life is full. So I'm very grateful for where I am today.
No, that's awesome. I'm still waiting for my grand whatever. But but yeah, that's the whole ball game, right? Really?
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
Truly.
No, that's fantastic. Have you been to the Calgary Stampede ever?
Oh yeah, almost every year.
Every
Yeah,
year you
for sure.
go.
For sure. Yeah, they got a lot of good entertainment and yeah, I haven't been to the Chuck Wagons for a couple of years, but yeah, it's pretty entertaining.
No, it's famous. It's famous. It's one of our Canadian, proud, events of the year type of thing. So, um,
Absolutely.
what was I going to say? What were you like? We're talking about kids. What were you like as a kid, as a teenager? Were you into dolls? Were you a tomboy? Were you a lemonade stand person, or were you organizing people or playing the flute? What were you doing?
Yeah, I was a very quiet, shy little girl. I grew up in a family of four siblings, well, two brothers and a sister, so four of us. So I tended to get lost in the mix, but I was very artistic. Even as a kid, I still do. My passion is Barbie dolls.
Oh, it
I
is.
make Barbie doll clothes, like designer, like Barbie doll clothes for my granddaughter, So I've always been into dolls, Barbie dolls. I used to play classical guitar as a kid.
Oh,
Um, Not so much into sports. I didn't have the confidence, but I appreciate it. My kids were in sports, a lot of different sports. So I appreciate that sports, teammanship, teamwork and all that is so critical. So it's something that I believe in. And I kind of grew up a quiet, shy introvert. And it's interesting because as I've got older, I've learned to find my voice and I've been on
right.
a few podcasts and tell my stories. So it's interesting where I started and where I'm going.
Yeah, I always find it interesting how that works out type of thing. I think, we were just saving our energy for later. Maybe not knowingly, but that's what we were doing.
Yeah.
And learning and listening and reading and all that stuff. Do you still play the guitar?
No, no, I don't. She plays guitar and keyboard, but no, again, I didn't have the confidence to sit in front of an audience and play guitar. So I think that's why I'm so passionate about listening to the quiet ones, right? They have a story to tell. And that's kind of what I've learned through the years is I want to make sure everyone around my table gets heard, whether it's playing an instrument or telling a story or, you know, expressing themselves. I think it's really important.
It's critical. Every single person in the world has value, and we discriminate so much on on titles and looks and categories and God knows how many different distinctions we have to put to things rather than let's tell us about you type of thing, you know? And that person could have the cure to cancer. That person could have the next screenplay written. Who knows? It's fantastic. You went to Alberta University and you studied visual communications, right?
That's right. Yes.
So what were you envisioning at that time?
So for me, I was always a good student in high school and elementary school, but I was always good in art. It came easy to me and I enjoyed it. So it was kind of a no-brainer. The Alberta College of Art and Design which is what it was called way back in the day. It just opened as I was graduating from high school, and I thought that is the place for me. So I enrolled for visual communications, which is basically advertising, and it was a 4-year it's a degree now, degree program. And I loved it. I love to work behind the scenes. I love to do the art and the design, supporting, the stories that we want to tell through art design. So it was a very natural place for me to go. I enjoyed it. I loved the 4 years I spent there. And I learned a lot about, back in the day, we didn't have computers. It was hand kerned typography and, learning to
Yeah,
draw. And
unfortunately, I remember that too.
hey, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a
Right.
great thing.
No, I think yeah, it's time flies, does it not? Man, we've seen so many things in our lifetime that have happened. And the next generation, amazingly enough, is probably going to see 10 times that on what's going on. But coming back, how did you find your way to the Calgary Herald then?
So when I graduated, I got a job in a head office at a retail store. So I learned a lot about advertising, catalogs, all that. And this was before digital. This was like flyers, paper flyers,
I
which we
know.
still get. So yeah, I'm really dating myself here, but I learned a lot because I learned from the ground up. I learned the non-tech world, so I learned how to communicate, and I worked for it was a home improvement head office. So I didn't know the difference between plywood and paneling for a wall. I learned really fast,
I guess.
and that was good for me. So from there, I became the supervisor of the department. I think I was a good leader. I learned about scheduling and budgeting and all that. It wasn't just about, being on time, but it was doing good work and really leading the charge. So from there, there was a job for the Calgary Herald, the newspaper, and in those days, newspaper was the heyday. I worked there in the heyday of newspapers, and it was so exciting. I was so fortunate to have gotten a job there in the creative services department, and we did all the advertising for the sales reps. So it was a sales oriented organization. So we worked for the sales reps. They went out and got the clients. We did the ads for the clients. I loved it. It was fast paced. It was interesting. I learned you got the news right on the ground, right? So you were finding out what new buildings were going up, what companies were doing, all, in real time pretty much. So it was a really exciting place to work. And I worked there for about 10 years, and it was a great learning ground for me. So
No, I'm sure. I remember nothing's changed to some degree because I remember parents saying, "Don't believe everything you read in the newspaper." Sound familiar?
yeah, yeah,
You know,
sure.
what most interested you about your time there? Were there any specific experiences or inflection points that really stood out for you that were impactful that maybe even led you to your next positions?
Well, it's interesting. I had a really good boss at the Herald. And I learned a lot about, like, that's when software, we were just starting to get computers. So he had a lot of wisdom that I gravitated towards. He would say, anybody can learn the software, but not everybody has the fortitude to actually apply it and in the right way. So, and have the right attitude towards their work and their ethics and all that. So I learned a lot about just what goes deeper than just having talent to design an ad. It's, wow, you got to have the right attitude. You have to learn how to work with sales reps, for example. You have to hear what maybe they're not saying that you can capture in that ad. And I just learned a lot about dealing with different people, sitting with the client and learning, what do we need to do to make this ad stand out stand off the page. And by the way, we were doing ads where we'd have coupons that, now it's completely different. We've got real-time analytics. We had coupons way back in the day where you were cutting out, filling it out, cutting it out, and sending it into a marketing department going, okay, this ad is where this coupon came from. So, I wouldn't trade it because I think it's that boots on the ground kind
Yeah.
of old school kind of thing, but it brought a lot of value to where I am now when I'm looking at Google Analytics or whatever and saying, wow, it's so different now to be a designer with real-time analytics and looking at, well, what's working, what's not working? How do I need to change this Google ad or whatever to make it more effective? So completely different world, but I'm glad I had that history to really be able to relate to old school and where we're going. So
Yeah, I agree. It's a different type of learning. It almost seems more, it almost seems deeper than now in a way. I mean, the analytics we have now are obviously tremendous, and the data is massive. But you really have to dig deep for that, for the data, for knowing what's going on, and now the young people would say that that's ridiculous. We got it all right in front of us, but there's something about touchy-feely being there more, right?
absolutely. Absolutely. And really learning how to read the analytics. Like there's a lot that you can see, but reading it properly and really getting the right data out of it and how it resonates with what you're doing, I think it's critical. So yeah, there's lots of data out there. It's really interpreting it probably in a realistic way that is going to make a difference for, the next round of whatever you're building.
Yeah, no kidding. So I know you went to Tiger Media, and as a multimedia designer, and then you also went to TELUS, not a small company, that as creative director. What happened in those places that then made you make the decision to start your own company?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my boss at the Herald, he started a multimedia company. He left the Herald, back in the day, it was called Multimedia Company with CD-ROMs and DVDs and the internet was just coming into play.
Well, all that
I
tech,
loved
man.
So I thought this is really exciting. And when we were at the Herald, he used to say, you know what? The days of newspapers are long gone. Like we're going to have the day where the newspaper is going to be in digital format. We're going to have a picture of a person and we're going to be able to click on that picture and there's going to be a video of him talking. And it was
Wow.
like, you know what? Saying that out loud, it sounds ridiculous, but that's where we were like decades ago, right? And
Hmm.
it was like, wow, that's exciting. So I got in on the ground level with him with the his multimedia company, and we were doing the first websites in Calgary, actually. So it was an exciting time to be a designer and really getting in on the ground floor once again and learning about all this new digital world. So I hope that I bring the wisdom that I have today from those days long ago, right? So I feel like I have something of value to that translates into the digital world today.
Yeah, without a
So
doubt. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, so
Sorry. I was just thinking, I'm good at interrupting. You'll find out. But I remember clients telling me sincerely that I don't know what this website stuff is all about. We're doing fine. I don't really need a website thing. And they didn't really know, and they're going what they didn't know, what they didn't know, right? Type of thing. But a lot of changes.
totally. Totally. And even for me, when I worked at Tiger Media, it was like clients would come in and they might be home developers or even plumbers going, do I need a website? And we're going, no, you don't need a website. You can be in the yellow pages. But now everybody should have a website, right? Because no one uses the yellow pages anymore. There isn't any yellow pages. But to kind of come through all those eras is I find it really, I'm glad that I had that opportunity, right? To see all the changes through the years. So when I worked for Tiger Media, I got an opportunity to work for a large telecommunications company, being TELUS, and I thought, well, this is the big game. So I became creative director there, and again, I was leading a team of very talented
I bet.
designers, some programmers. So it was very exciting. Programming really isn't my thing. I know enough about programming to be able to direct, but I'm not a programmer. But it was interesting. But it was also the yellow pages trying to become a player in the internet world. So that's what I was finding a little bit frustrating. It was like the segue between the two was a little bit bumpy. So from there, I decided, you know what, I've been in this game for a while, and I decided to start my own company, Blue Brown Communications. I don't know if I told you, I named it Blue Brown because I have two daughters.
All
One
right.
has blue eyes, one has brown eyes. And the idea was really to see the world of design through the eyes of a child, always asking why. Because that was really my motivation for, I played, with the big boys and the big leagues, and it was like, I just want to get back down to the basics of really asking why. Why do you need this ad? Why do you need this trade show booth? Why do you need this? So I just kind of, culled it right down to let's make sure we're asking why.
Yeah, I love that. And by the way, in the yellow pages for a second, I talked to somebody recently who was involved in creating one of those yellow pages, and I said, "Did you keep one?" He said, "No, I can't believe it. I don't have one." Because they were also useful for I don't know if you remember, for little kids to sit on to make them taller in the when they were sitting at tables or something. Get the yellow pages so you can sit on that.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. They had many purposes.
Exactly. So you describe your firm as, I'm going to quote, blue sky thinker grounded in common sense and experience. Um, and you did tell me, I remembered, I thought that was great after the color of the eyes of both your kids. Um, and you talk about the mission being seen through kids' eyes. So what's the differentiation that you offer clients in that respect? And how you're rating your art and design and communication? How do you take that to your advantage?
For me, I simplify it to head in sky, feet on ground. Blue brown is also meaning that I am a creative thinker, but a lot of people see creatives as woohoo and they're out there and it's rainbows and butterflies. Creative, and I believe we're
You
all
sound like Sarah
creative.
McLachlan.
I think creativity is in each of us. And I think it is not necessarily that woohoo. Like a lot of us, I'm a creative person, but I'm also grounded in I need a budget, a schedule, and a contract. And when I first started working with clients with my own company, they go, "Oh, we worked with web designers before, but we never had a schedule and we never had a budget." And it was like, well, now we have a schedule and a budget because we need to really ground this in some logic, right? So I really believe in my head is in the sky because I am hopefully thinking about new creative ideas, but I'm also grounded in that logic, that business side, because the two have to merge to have a successful company. So that's kind of been my mantra, I guess.
It's a good mantra. Earlier in our conversation, you talked about listening to the quiet voices out there, etc. We use that term a lot about active listening. We use a program called Nonflict, which teaches active listening and how to look at conflict differently. Um, when you share about being an active listener, how does art and design influence? How do you hear from people how it influences their work and their play? And then how do you balance the human element side with the making money side?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I find that when we're working on a project, and I work with a marketing person that I've been working with for about 20 years, she's fantastic. But we really like to start with a discovery session. And I find the discovery session, it strips everything down right into the lowest common denominator. Like we're finding out who are you, what makes you tick. And it's not necessarily, oh, I'm a I'm a physicist and I do this, this, and this. It's like, how did you get started in this? Like where's your passion in this? Like, how are you going to make a difference in the world? So it's really digging deep and not just saying, what's your product or service? It's like, how do you want to change the world with your product or service? So it's really digging deeper. And I find the discovery session, they get to know us because hopefully we're asking the good questions that nobody asks. And we get the good information because they're kind of surprised that like, oh, those no one's ever asked us that before. So as we're learning about them, they're actually learning about themselves, going, I never really thought about that, or I never really thought about how we fare in a competitive marketplace. Like, where do we land? So it's really asking, I think, tough questions, but also learning about who they are, what their values are. I have found early on when I first started my company that I actually fired a client. His values were not congruent with mine. he was rude. He was a very angry person. He was very demanding. Anything I did, I couldn't satisfy. So it was like, those are the clients that, you know what, you have to hire me and you have to trust me. And hopefully my background proves that I'm going to do a good job for you. So I found that working with clients, they had to have values that were congruent with me. Even the team players that I work with, their values are very congruent with myself and my values. So that alone is a big key differentiator in who I work with, how I work with them, and how they work with me.
Well, that's why you're on a Leaders Who Care series, um, because that's who we work with also. Leaders who really do care about their employees. They do care about, both making money and having impact at the same time and things of that nature. We talked about pre-technology and then technology and active listening and all that stuff now, and here we are, AI fast and furious, changing like no tomorrow. When did you have time to rate the green velvet chair?
Well, as I mentioned, I have always felt like I'm the quiet introvert. So about 5 years ago, I joined a workshop and it was about storytelling, like oral storytelling, not writing, but talking, because I thought I need to articulate my ideas, my design ideas, my stories better. And I really wanted to help my clients tell their stories better because even in the corporate world, storytelling resonates with people.
Yep.
So I started this workshop. I did 3 workshops, I think, with this coach, and there was about 8 of us in this group, and we had to tell stories and we had to capture story moments. And story moments aren't necessarily that life-changing story moment. It's maybe helping someone who fell in the airport and going, wow, you know, I helped them and they were so, whatever that story is. It could be
Yeah.
a small moment that goes, wow, just that small act of kindness makes such a difference in our lives. So it's those story moments that may seem insignificant that are actually really important stories to tell. So I learned about how important a story moment is. I learned how to articulate, hopefully, a little bit better and express myself better. And I realized when we had to tell our stories to this group, and I could make people laugh and I could make them cry. And I thought, maybe there's something here. So then I started writing. And the only thing I ever wrote to that point was budgets and schedules and proposals. So I wasn't really a writer. I didn't consider myself a writer, but I started designing with words. And I started writing stories about things that I knew about art and design in everyday life. A lot of the stories in my book, they're short essays, but they're about how I kind of, became a creative person, my background, stories about, talked about high school. I have a high school story if you want to hear it. It's about art and design and branding. And, my high school story was when I told it in the book, people would email me and go, I did not know you had a rough time in high school. That was just like me. So stories that resonate with people and go, wow, she's just like me. All of a sudden, when people see themselves in your stories, it's like, this is really important. So sorry, this is a long-winded answer, but it took me several years to write the book because I did several different essays through the years, capturing those story moments. And I found my voice. And I found storytelling was so critical, not just about me, learning how to make Ukrainian Easter eggs with my mom, but realizing how that heritage was so critical, especially in today's world. You're going, wow, we need to really protect our heritage, the food and the crafts and all the songs and everything we bring. We need to protect that because today's world is crazy. So it was all those things that were kind of profound that I didn't see that happening or coming out of this book. And now when I look at it several years later, having written it, it's like, wow, there's some abstract stories in here that are, I think, important.
Yeah, I mean, I deal with a lot of people and a lot of leaders in all different aspects, including under 18, that we were going to call future leaders who care, but our present future leaders who care. And
Mhm.
so many of the small moments, the one-time smile, the whatever it may be, like you said, helping a lady across the street, whatever it is, um, hugging a tree. I mean, there's so many. Those small things are the things that make us happier. And we were just talking today about how Mother Nature gave us a shot, if you will, with COVID, and we were remembering the. I don't know if you ever saw the movie. Moonstruck with Nicolas Cage
Love that movie.
and Cher smacks him and then she smacks him and he tells him, snap out of it. But he was falling in love with her. But that's kind of what we think Mother Nature was trying to do with COVID is like take a breath and listen to the birds singing out there and all that stuff and cherish cherish the moments like we said our kids are the whole ball game, cherish those moments. Why did you call it, by the way, the green velvet chair?
Um, I struggled with that title. I was coming up with, from pixels to pike or picas to pixels, the units of measure from newspaper to today. And someone said, that's not, again, I'm using the word congruent. That's not congruent with your synopsis. That title doesn't work. So I went back to one of the stories I wrote, and it was about my mom. My mom was very, very creative, but she wasn't an artist, but she was an artist with textiles and
Mm,
sewing and all that kind of stuff. So when we were little kids, I'll tell you the story quickly.
mm,
When we went, we used to go for Sunday drives in the country on a Sunday afternoon with my family, with my siblings, my mom and dad, and we're driving down a country road. My mom saw this old dilapidated chair in the weeds, and she made my dad stop the car. She goes, "That's got good bones. I want that. I want that chair." So she went up to the farmer's house and offered him some money, and he goes, "No, it's junk. You can just take it." So my dad rolled his eyes and loaded it up in the back of the station wagon, and us four kids were kind of mocking her in a way, not mocking, but not believing where this was going. Like, what's she going to do with this piece of junk? Because we didn't mock our mother, not, especially not in those days. You don't mock.
mm.
But we kind of were doubtful of where this was going. But she had a vision for it. She didn't share that vision, and she enrolled in an upholstery course, and she sanded down the arms and the legs. She restrung the strings, like she stripped it right down, and she developed this beautiful diamond tufted back with green velvet, and it sits in my home now. And I thought, it's a story about vision, and it's a story about perhaps a leader not sharing, got more abstract that this was a vision that we scoffed at her about. And now that I see it, I go, this was a work of art. It sits in my living room. I'm proud of it. But it taught me about how many leaders aren't sharing their vision with their people. How many are just kind of going, well, I don't know where we're going with this, but let's just follow the leader. Like, share your vision. It's important. Get the passion of the people behind you. Vision is an important thing. So it kind of in an abstract way, there's stories in there that are relating to business, even though they seem like, well, this is just a silly story about a chair. It's not. There's a lot packed in there.
Anything human is not silly. Maya Angelou with her my favorite saying of all time, which she says, most people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you've done, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. Um,
Yes.
I compare a lot of things to sports. Those are the teams that win championships, and that's the same thing in business. If you get your people engaged with you like that, and it's a lot of times the simplest thing, like you were talking about, just the humanity stuff that people remember. Oh, that happened to you too, type of thing. It's so important. So I'm glad you shared that story. And do you still have the green velvet chair somewhere?
Yeah, sitting in my living room.
Oh.
In fact, when I have interviews, I sometimes put it behind me so that you could see it. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's the seat's a little worn out, the velvet's kind of worn out a little bit, but I'm thinking about getting it recovered, and I'm going, I don't think I have the heart to do that. I love the character it has.
Yeah,
So yeah,
exactly. So I have a pair of old hockey skates hanging on the wall here, and I got the
nice.
Singer sewing machine not the one my grandmother had because my cousin took that one and I wasn't happy about that. But I found one and I got it just because, right? Um,
Nice.
so thank you for
Nice.
sharing that story. So I got one more question in this part. In LA, we say keep them wanting more so we can do a sequel. So we'll have to figure that out. But but um, we had the pandemic in 2020. In fact, one of my clients told me in 2021 he described it as the year that flew by slowly. And I thought, what a great remark. And very often people tell me it feels like it was yesterday and years ago, all at the same time. Kind of a weird time. Now we're already at the end of almost 2025, which is also unbelievable. November coming up. What are you most grateful for now, and what are you most hopeful for?
Oh, that's a loaded question. Um, I have to say, I joined an organization recently. They're called the Wellness Universe. I joined them because I love their vision. And their vision was about, and it sounds very bold, but it's healthy, happy people can create world peace. And I thought at the crux of it
Pretty
all,
bold.
it's such a bold statement, but it's like I do think there's so much anxiety and angst and anger. Uh, just, so much stuff going on. I think we just need to really take a breath, take that strategic breath, and just find that inner peace. And hopefully, I know it sounds bold and it maybe sounds trite, but I think that's where it really begins. We need to talk to our neighbors. How are we going to solve problems in the Middle East when we're not talking to our neighbors? We need to just take a breath and just, engage in people one on one. You talk about it. I love your vision as well. Leaders that care, I think it's critical. And I think that's what's going to get us through the next several, several years. It's really just, you know, talking to our neighbors and solving problems and just meeting in the middle. I really think that's where we need to be. And in many ways, I think COVID got us there.
A little bit. It's definitely no. That's beautiful. It's bold is bold, and the bolder it is, the better. Um, because if we're not talking to our neighbors, actually talking to our neighbors is good for our well-being, and especially if you're laughing, it's even better. And then you can get stuff done. There's a program really quick called Nonflict that was created by a Montrealer and an Israeli, and it's I think I mentioned before, it's a little bit of active listening and looking at conflict differently. And we're going to be training with Junior Achievement, Scouts International, Global Red Cross, and Global YMCA between now and 2030, 100 million young people on it. And then by 2035, 250 million young people on having the mindset of conflict is just different ideas and listening to each other. And
I
so
love
yeah, so maybe we should tie it into your thing there. It could be an interesting combination. So,
it.
hey, I know what I'm grateful for having a new friend. That's what I'm grateful for, especially a Canadian, the best friends ever. And and um if you'll find if you speak to me more, I'm always touting Canada. So they sometimes get tired of me. But I'm also grateful that you are a leader who cares too, and I'm glad your voice is being heard more and more and more. And I'm hopeful for the same reason that you are a leader who cares, and which is part of that. I love that Green Velvet Chair story. Way to go, Mom! And so keep making a difference, and thank you for being on the series.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Enjoy talking to you.
Me too.